Hey, it's Philip here. You're very welcome to today's Digital Spark. Today I'm moving on with my next stage of my digital marketing strategy framework, which is content planning and channel selection. Now, certainly when it comes to content planning, I always recommend you should do a content audit. Do you know even what content you have produced currently? What videos you have? What blogs you've written? What downloadables you've created? Maybe you've got webinars, podcasts, etc. We've produced so much content and yet we haven't really utilized it or promoted to its fullest extent. And certainly if you've got content that's evergreen, that has this long shelf life, you could very easily kind of give that content a new boost of life with just some maybe simple refreshment of it, even by just changing sometimes the date from 2025 to 2026. So doing that content audit of looking at what you have is a fantastic first start. I would also as well be doing a content audit from the data point on your website, looking at your Google Analytics, your Google Search Console, seeing what's happening. Are there landing pages that are getting a surprising amount of visitors that you weren't expecting? Is maybe content on those landing pages that you could utilize for promotional purposes or to give a refreshment to? But are you also finding that there's certain content that's driving the conversions? Why is that? Drill into that. Are there queries that we're starting to see from the data as to how people are finding your website from a keyword point of view that you maybe haven't considered, that maybe content needs to be actually produced to really reap the rewards from those visitors? Definitely as well, if you're on social media, you want to be analyzing all of your social media analytics. What's happening with each of your content? Likes, comments, shares, follower growth, download, link clicks. Get an understanding as to, well, how are the channels performing? Are certain channels performing better than others? Because it might, over a period of time, start to signify that, we see consistent growth across maybe a LinkedIn and an Instagram, but really nothing happening on X or Facebook. Do we need to maybe dial back some of the activity in those channels and focus more on these channels that are reaping our rewards? Maybe that is where our true customer is. And also to understand the type of theme and content and the content formats that maybe are performing best on each channel. Like maybe on YouTube, just don't assume that maybe, well, it's the long form video that's always going to perform, because when you dive into the metrics, you might find, well, actually it's the YouTube shorts that are doing fantastic. So once again, that kind of social media channel audit is very important. Now, certainly when it comes to your website, if you want to drill down and utilize AI, a very handy tip you can do is, let's just say, for example, you've got a pillar blog post on your website. Put that website URL into, say, ChatGPT and ask it to critique the content of it. What does it actually teach a visitor or tell a visitor? But where is it missing information? How could it be improved? And how could you repurpose the content on that page into other formats? Very interesting insight. So I would definitely test this for yourself. And talking about repurposing, this is such an important element, because a lot of people kind of get into the point of just writing a blog or doing a video and never thinking about the potential content repurposing or other ways to take that piece of content and turn it into 2 or 3 other pieces of content. Like, for example, with your blog, why don't you turn it into maybe an audio, maybe a podcast piece, or you could turn it into a video. You could take that blog and turn it into an ebook. Likewise, with your video, you could turn that into a downloadable ebook using a great tool like Notebook LM. So don't just create content and just see it in the format that it is. Try and see how can you turn it into other forms of content and get the most effectiveness out of it. Very important as well that you do your competitive audits as well from a content point. What are your competitors creating? What are they talking about? What themes are they talking about? Sign up for their newsletter, see what they send you back. Is it something that you can improve on, or are they talking about topics of content that you haven't even considered and suddenly you're now behind the curve? You can also use great tools like SimilarWeb or SparkToro, and they can give you even further insights on what your competitors are doing, how are they performing, what channels they're on, potential content opportunities that once again can give you this overall rounded view. Now, from a content point, there is a very interesting model that you might find quite useful. It's called the hub and spoke model. And if you think of it simply like this, The hub is your main kind of pillar piece of content. So let's just say, for example, you like to talk about blogging or blogging strategy. So that's your main pillar hub content. And then out of that is the spokes. So you might, for example, have blogging SEO, blogging for AI search, etc. But all of those kind of spoke pieces of content will ultimately always link back to your main kind of hub. And this is a great way to also have that kind of linkage within your website, and it's great for AI search to allow it to kind of suddenly kind of pitch and piece together exactly what your pieces of content are all about, and better for the recommendations. Now, certainly consistency is king when it comes to creating content, because you want to get into a format, especially if you're trying to build trust and thought leadership. You want to be posting and doing it consistently, obviously making sure the content you're putting out is of good quality. And a content calendar is a great way to do this, because not only does it allow you to obviously plan for certain themes, for certain audiences, for certain channels, but that's how you stay consistent, because you know exactly on this particular day each month we're going to be talking about this. And that's a great way then to suddenly kind of keep yourself consistent and strategic, so that you're hitting all of these parameters. I think it's very important to remember as well, when we talk about channel selection, is that you want to start with your customer in mind. You know, there is no point posting on TikTok if your customer is never going to be on TikTok. But if they're going to be on LinkedIn, you want to make sure you're on LinkedIn. So start with the customer in mind. There's no harm testing. Like, certainly I'm a big believer in testing channels with content to see. But then you'll get to a point where really, you know, are you stretching your resources just to say that you're on TikTok when really it's not yielding you any results? So sometimes if you're B2B, maybe your LinkedIn, focusing on your website with maybe some kind of paid ads with targeted Facebook ads or Google, potentially is the way to go, as opposed to maybe more B2C, lifestyle kind of consumer. Well, then maybe Instagram and a TikTok could be perfect. You know, if you find that video really resonates as a content source for you across your channels, then maybe YouTube, along with both long form and YouTube shorts, along with maybe an Instagram Reels, could be perfect. But I think the key thing to remember is that all content should not be treated the same. You shouldn't always be creating content to sell. You need to be kind of creating content that kind of takes customers from education, that awareness building, so educate them as to who you are, to then build trust through reviews, testimonials and case studies, to then kind of whetting the appetite, that desire, through your lead magnets and your free trials, to then obviously building the advocacy through sharing people's stories, user generated content, etc. So I hope you found today's Digital Spark useful. All of my other Digital Sparks are up there on my website, philiptoyford.com, and until then, take care.